What's going on YouTube? Zach Schissler back here for another video. As you can tell by the title, today we are reviewing the newly released 2020 Baltimore Ravens schedule. Now this schedule of course is pending on what happens with the whole pandemic and if the country's open up back now. We still don't know if there'll be fans of the game, but the NFL said they have a backup plan for that, so if they do go to a new schedule, I'll review that one too. And just to thwart any possible bandwagon comments, I have donned the Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco jersey. I've been a Ravens fan my whole life. I've loved football my whole life. They're definitely my favorite sports team out of all of them. So let's get right into it. Now, preseason doesn't really matter, but the one interesting thing I saw in this preseason is we actually play two teams that we play in the regular season, the Cowboys and the Redskins. Now, it's not really that big of a deal, but anytime you play a team in the preseason that you're going to play in the regular season, they're going to have extra film on you and be a little bit more keen on what you're doing. So that is something to watch out for. If those games are closer than expected down the road, maybe it's because they saw each other in the preseason. But let's get to the regular season. Starting off the regular season, Cleveland at M&T Bank Stadium, getting revenge for last year at M&T Bank Stadium in Week 3, I think it was, where Nick Chubb ran for like 188 yards all over our defense. The Ravens have solidified their defensive line with Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe. We went out and drafted Patrick Queen with our first pick. Got another good linebacker from Ohio State, Malik Henderson. So our run defense should be pretty solid this year. I think we match up well with the Browns, but should be a good revenge game back in M&T Bank Stadium. Then in Week 2, we go to Houston, which is our only game that is out of the Eastern time zone, which is crazy because that usually never happens in the NFL, but that's a big advantage for the Ravens. That's a 4:25 game, Week 2 at Houston. Houston will be good, I think. I think they'll be a little bit worse because Bill O'Brien really doesn't seem to know what he's doing. I think the Ravens do have the upper hand in that matchup as well. Then Week 3, probably the biggest game on the NFL schedule is Monday Night Football. Chiefs coming to M&T Bank Stadium. The first time we played the Chiefs at home in a couple of years. We've played them the past 2 years, both in Kansas City. Lamar Jackson is 0-2 versus Patrick Mahomes. This is our chance to solidify ourselves as the #1 contender in the AFC early in the season. This will be a huge game. It'll be promoted for a long, long time, and a lot of people are going to watch it because it's got the two most electrifying quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it'll be a great game, and I think it'll be a really close one. Then Week 4, we go to Washington, which is actually in Landover, Maryland, so it's like a 50-minute drive for the Ravens. Washington has a rebuilding roster, even though they have a really good young defensive line. I don't believe in Dwayne Haskins, and I believe that this should be a pretty easy game coming off the Chiefs for the Ravens. Then after that, Joe Burrow comes to get his first taste of the Ravens. Cincinnati comes to M&T Bank Stadium, another 1 o'clock game. I think the Bengals could be better than people are predicting for them. Of course, without OTAs and a lot of minicamp, it might be hard for a lot of new players to adjust to the system because they do have a young team. Getting A.J. Green back for the whole year and having a young quarterback with a lot of potential, I think that'll really help them. Plus, they also have Tyler Boyd to throw the ball to and Tyler Eifert, so they could have a decent passing game. Then Week 6, the Ravens head to Philadelphia. The first time we've played the Eagles in a while, and I honestly think the Eagles are a really good fundamental team. They do not win a lot of games, but they're close in a lot of games. Like, the Eagles are a very dramatic team, I feel like, especially from watching them last year. But Carson Wentz and Jalen Reagor, I think that'll be a good connection. And now Carson has some more weapons. I think he could have a really good year. I do think the Ravens are a lot faster than the Eagles, so I think that'll work to the Ravens' advantage in that game. Then Week 7, Pittsburgh comes to town for a 1 p.m. matchup. The greatest rivalry in NFL football is Steelers and Ravens, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. It's been going on since the Ravens' inception in 1996. And, these games are always great. And you can never count the Steelers out. Even though the Ravens definitely have a better roster, did better last year, it doesn't matter. The Steelers are going to give the Ravens their A game every single time, and vice versa. Then Week 8 is our bye week. Now, the Ravens do have a lot of veteran players, so I think a bye week in the middle of the season is pretty good, kind of rejuvenate them. They're not too worn down yet. I think that's a good spot for us to have our bye week. Week 9, we get to see old man Riverwalk, Phillip Rivers, in a Colts uniform for the first time. The game is at Indy, and it's a 1 p.m. game. I think Phillip Rivers will actually have a much better year behind a really good offensive line, but I don't see them having the firepower to really be a contender. But I do think they will be a tough matchup week in and week out. Then we travel up to Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, and we play the Jarrett Stidham probably, led Patriots on Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is usually marquee matchup. This game has definitely lost some luster without the Tom Brady versus Lamar Jackson factor that was last year, but I do think, they have the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick, and they'll definitely still be a solid team with a really good defense, so can never count the Patriots out. Then, Week 11, it is time for revenge. The Titans come back to M&T Bank Stadium. We're not messing around this time. Derrick Henry is not going to bully us like he did last year. Poor Earl Thomas getting turned around. And Earl Thomas has had a rough week if you've been paying attention to the news. But I think we will come out with a vengeance. I do not think the Titans will be as good as they were last year. Ryan Tannehill's just not. He's not the guy. And I think that our defense will swarm him, unlike the divisional round last year, and we'll be ready for him. This game could also really get flexed to a night game. It is a playoff upset rematch, and it could have playoff implications for this upcoming year. So I think that could get flexed. Then on Thanksgiving, the night game at Thanksgiving, 8:20, it's Ravens Steelers in Pittsburgh. I cannot wait for this game. Last time we played the Steelers on a holiday, it was on Christmas Day, and Antonio Brown stretched for the goal line, if you guys remember, and ended the Ravens' playoff hopes. That sucked. We're coming for payback. I think this will be a classic game. Ravens Steelers Thanksgiving night game. I'm super excited for this one. This is one I definitely have circled. The week after Thanksgiving, we play on Thursday night again. Thursday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys in M&T Bank Stadium. I have not seen the Ravens play the Cowboys in a while. It's been at least 4 years, I think. But the Cowboys definitely have a great offense, the leading passing attack from last year, and they did bolster that even more with CeeDee Lamb. So I think it'll be a great matchup. The Ravens, of course, their biggest strength is their secondary, in my opinion. So our secondary against that great passing game should be really good. Plus, it's America's team versus the Ravens on primetime. Should be great. I'm very excited for that one also. Then the week after that, we head to Cleveland for another primetime game, 3 in a row, 4 out of the last 5 weeks. Monday Night Football against the Browns in Cleveland. This game takes place in Week 14, so I think this will definitely have divisional ranking implications. I think the Browns will probably be in the second place for the divisions. Them or the Steelers, they'll be fighting for it. And I think it'll be closer than it was last year, so I think this could be a huge game for playoffs. And the Ravens do have a nice break because they play the Cowboys on Thursday, and then they don't play again until Monday. They have a nice break to rest up and study more Browns game film, so I think the Ravens will definitely be ready for this one. And the last 3 weeks of the season is kind of like a break for the Ravens. There's no breaks in the NFL. But there are 3 teams who are not projected to really contend for anything. Week 15, we get Jacksonville at home. Jacksonville, they're said to be rebuilding this year. They're really not sure who their quarterback of the future is going to be. It's not Gardner Minshew, I can tell you that. Then week 16, Daniel Jones, Saquon, and the Giants come to Baltimore. For the first time, the Giants have played the Ravens in a while. This is another 1 p.m. game against a team that is not projected to really contend for anything. I think they'll probably be 3rd in the NFC East. That kind of makes sense to me. It's usually Philly and the Cowboys vying for that first place spot in the last couple weeks of the season. That's usually what you see anyway. Then week 17, to wrap up the season, we head up to face Joe Burrow, AJ Green, and the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if this game will really mean anything. It might, depending on how close the division race is. But if this game was for really big playoff implications, I think that the Bengals at the end of the year, once they have chemistry, could possibly play spoiler. They got that good offense, Joe Mixon, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Eifert. They got some playmakers for Joe Burrow to spread the ball to. So I got my eye on this one for the Ravens not to overlook it. A couple points about this schedule that I've seen on headlines. The Ravens have to travel the least amount of miles out of any team in the NFL. It's like 6,000 something. The Ravens have the easiest schedule based upon win percentages of the teams they play from last year, which doesn't mean a whole lot because there was a lot of roster turnover this offseason, but it still gives a sense that the Ravens could have some weaker teams to play. The Ravens have the most primetime games in franchise history with 5. They also have a chance for 5 primetime games in a row and a new record of 6 primetime games if that Titans game gets flexed. If that Titans game got flexed, we would have 5 night games in a row, which would be insane. That's like unheard of. But this schedule coming out has me super excited to get back into sports. I'm so tired of no sports. I cannot watch any more old YouTube highlights. I'm tired of it. The Ravens schedule looks good. I think we have a real chance to win a lot of games definitely double-digit wins in my opinion. I'm going to be doing game-by-game breakdown soon, which games I think will win, which games I think will lose, which games I think will be toss-ups, and I'll have final record predictions for every team in the AFC North. So stick around for that. Thanks for watching. Go Ravens. Peace.